Cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. It's black and white. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
when there is sound, there is life, and that's good, because for a second there wasn't any. I fixed that on the break. Hello, everyone. Good evening to the Simracersworld Dynamixx NASCAR series. Round 6 from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. My name is Hasse Rømer. I am here yet again with Jack Oliphant. And as true to tradition, I want to say here, at least for the winter half year for the Europeans around and about, of which we are quite a bit, I should say, that are suffering under the effects of the winter weather of these times. Anyway, Jacko, we're into the second half of the season. It's still tight, it's still close, and especially taking into consideration that we got 2 drop rounds as well, anything can still happen in this championship.
Anything can indeed still happen, Hasse. Yes, hello to everyone out there. And to be honest, there is 2 drop rounds. I'm going to leave it to someone much smarter than me to try and figure out what the crack is with the drop rounds. So I'm just going to sort of like talk about the championship as it stands at the moment, as if there wasn't any drop round. And the championship leader currently is Johan Osorio. Frederick Van Etkoven is a little bit closer than he was this time last week, but only a touch close, only by about 8 points. So 176 points has Johan, 152 points has Frederick. So there's still quite a large gap, about 20 to 24 points, I believe that is. They got Tim Perry rounding out the top 3. However, from 3rd down to 6th, they're separated by 3 points. So incredibly close in the sort of top mid-pack. Tim Perry, Sergio Hernandez, Paul Gosling, and Kenzie Neuwirth, all separated by 3 points on 139 down to 136. Doesn't get much bigger than that either. The gaps from the likes of Matteo Sufi down to Bram Van Uyven, that is 7th to 10th. So with Adi Sejas and John Tusting in there. So basically everywhere you look is really close racing, and everyone is really gunning for those valuable points. We are, of course, in qualifying, and you were just having a look at Bart de Vos, who's had a bit of a change of teams, hasn't he, Hasse?
Yeah, very much so. He's gone and joined the Simracersworld esports team there, the Belgian, in the number 6 car. So let's see if that'll be a change of fortunes as well for him. He's had the potential on so many occasions to be up there, but it's never really materialized in anything here. Ian Roots still trying, I think, to put in a few of his laps. And, well, as the big boss is doing his laps of qualifying here of the 1.5 miles there is around this quad oval in Atlanta, I shall cue out the music and say a prayer for the drivers, because last time around it seemed like they really needed one. So please, for the love of God and all that is holy in the world of sim racing, stay safe out there tonight, lads. Be careful of one another. I actually just saw a documentary about the 1994 Daytona 500 today, which was a tragic event, and indeed also following the loss of the lives of 2 drivers that very weekend. And it actually got me onto something about the fact that I've never really followed on to NASCAR, even after having commentated here for a season and a half. Not much of a prayer that was, but interestingly so. And I have to say I really got hooked into sort of the historical side of things, and I believe I shall be catching up with the history of this sport. But anyway, thy Lord above us, have mercy on the drivers. Indeed, it shall be a short one. And with that, let's hope the race shall be as well, in the sense that we're hoping for a lot of green flag running. We've got the grid ready for you here. Frederick Van Etkoven, just like in practice, he's on pole position here for the race, ahead of teammate Kenzie Neuwirth. That's been a dangerous combo before, so watch out for Team Down Under today. Here's Bart de Vos in 3rd, and Sergio Hernandez up there as well in qualifying in 4th place. Tim Perry, Adam Wright, then Paul Gosling in 7th. Matty Sufi in 8th, then Ian Roots qualifying 9th, the best qualifying Ian has had so far this season. Philip Russell, Johan Osorio is championship leader in 11th place, and then Hendrik de Grave. Further down in 13th, there's John Barnes, Jochen Lennartz and Bart Bolen in 15th place, ahead of Ari Sejas. Then Lucas de Belder, Sven Calvert, Kimbe Haidt, Kurt van Hoenacker and Robert Lundgren, the Swede, in the 48 car for Boosted Motorsports there. Ahead of John Tusting in the 999 machine. John, obviously not German. And if he were, let's hope he's not uttering those words at any point in this race. Anyway, he's ahead of Ryan D. Walker and newcomer Toby Ward, again as well for Boosted Motorsports. And then rounding off the field will be Jürgen van der Perre. It's Fernando Lopez Vinales. It's Bram van Uyften, Manolo Rock, Stuart Musselwhite, Thijs van den Bergen, Yves Fredericks, and Lieven op de Beek.
Pretty full grid tonight, 32 drivers, and well, one that I'm going to be keeping an eye out a bit closer on is actually Paul Gosling, because I mentioned him before in the championship standings, but he doesn't seem to ever be a driver that we sort of find ourselves shouting about right at the front of the field is Paul in the Quantum Racing car. It's normally the boys you got on the screen now, Frederick and Kenzie Neuhoff, Sergio Hernandez, obviously Bart DeVos, Johan Asario, people like that, but it's never really Paul Gosling, but he is in the top 5 and quite solidly in the top 5 of the championship. So that's just consistent finishing left, right and centre. I think 3 races out of the 5 that he's had so far, he's scored 29 points, I believe. Never been less than 20 points in the championship. So when he drops rounds, it's going to be low, not that low scoring drop rounds, obviously, that he's going to be dropping. So expect us to keep an eye out for Paul, I'd say.
Yeah, indeed. He could very much be up there at the end of affairs. Come the end of the season, we've got 110 laps to go here, as we are on the back straight of the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Of course, pace car is coming in for the green flag to drop here, and it's going to be an interesting one. And I think a lot of the drivers, not only us here in the booth, and I would suppose most of the viewers as well at home, but the drivers in reality is at home as well, they will be hoping for something a little less chaotic than what we had last week at Charlotte. And I have a little bit of news that I'll come to later, but Kenzie Neuhoff, Frederick van Ekhoven, it's the team down under boys getting ready to go, and it's boogity 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 from the Atlanta Motor Speedway, and we are on to green flag running. And let's see which of the contenders will get the sort of start they'll be looking for here.
Paul Gosling on your screen, doing very well, although he has been driven away slightly from Tim Perry and Adam Wright. He'll have to try and jump into the toe to catch up to the leading pack for now. 31 second lap, I believe they were doing it in practice. So it is a very, very short lap under full. And in fact, we're already starting the second lap now. So as you can imagine, 100 laps will probably go pretty quickly as long as we do have that green flag running. We're all having our fingers crossed for, a little bit of a drift there. Very loose. And who is that? It's the Quantum driver of, I believe, John Barnes. John Barnes really losing a lot of positions, but thank the Lord he didn't lose out on a rear end or into someone else there. Look at this car control.
Yeah, indeed. We're going to have a look here from the... Oh, that was just about Johan Osorio. It says Osorio on screen, of course. It wasn't the focal point of that situation. A lot of points, a lot of places lost there for John Barnes, but a lot of style points gained on the save there. And that's one of the team down under cars. The machine of Adam Wright getting loose. So several machines showing that it is not easy at all. And they're 3 wide here. And it's Sufi on the receiving end, I think. The 88 of Quantum. It's the 87 car of Kim Behaid. Oh no, sorry, that's Hendrik de Graaf. Hendrik de Graaf. My apologies, it's a bit of a point for us getting our head around the Flemish cars indeed. And meanwhile, the championship, or the reigning championship, the reigning champion, I should probably say, Sergio Hernandez. 3rd place he's sitting in at the moment. He's got Bart DeVos on his tail alongside Tim Perry as well. And
well, we know Sergio Hernandez doesn't always like to just sit and wait, does he? He quite likes to have the trap position if he can avoid it. Well, a lot of the times where he's been surrounded by a number of cars, he's actually ended up getting punted off left, right and centre 2 races in a row. This season, he had terrible luck. So expect to see him if he can, move through to that sort of top step quite early on. And in fact, he's already looking to the outside of Kenzie Newhoff, not having it just yet. We haven't covered that much of Atlanta Motor Speedway, me or Hasse, to be honest. I mean, this is a new track to this season, and we'd never covered NASCAR before last season, so it's not surprising. But we're just sort of learning about these sort of intricacies of all these little tracks as well, because the likes of Daytona and Talladega, they can go 3 or 4 wide, and the likes of Pocono, apparently we can't get through more than 3 laps without a safety car. Well, how is Atlanta going to fare? Well, we're going to have the answer, but looks of it, there is a bit of a disparity. Not as easy to catch the toe and just follow everybody. They're not going to go 2 by 2 for the entirety of this race. But the 5 cars in the lead here are showing that you can drive nice and close and consistently as well. Hopefully we don't have any safety cars or pace cars, caution periods, and we can see what kind of tactics they're pulling out as well, because the pace of the tyres and the sort of life of the fuel as well, all very important strategic maneuvers that you have to maintain here in the NASCAR series.
Yeah, very much so, and we've seen it time and time again that the best of drivers in this series have been able to just hold off and stay put while keeping the pace of some of the competitors that are being a little more aggressive earlier in the race. And then all of a sudden you can see when the fast lads really decide to make their move, it's felt indeed. At the front of the field still, Van Ekhoven, Newhoff, Hernandez, De Vos and Perry. That's the top 5 running order, and they've broken away from the car currently in 6th. That's a huge gap indeed down to Adam Wright, Hendrik de Grave, Matthew Sufi and Philip Russell, etc. et al., if you will, because there are a lot of cars there behind. And then further down, a lot of close fighting, as you would expect, featuring our championship leader, Johan Osorio, who's lost 3 places since the start here today. Jacko has found himself now down in 14th place.
Yeah, I was having a look for a few drivers that have gained a lot of positions. Hendrik de Grave is the one who's gained the most. He's gained 5 up to 7th. Johan, no, in 14th, like you were saying, and well, he had a few good results earlier on, didn't he? Are the cracks starting to show with the likes of Frederik Van Ekhoven, Kenzie Newhoff, Sergio Hernandez, always at the top, fighting for podium positions, whatever stage of the race, unless they obviously caught up in some bad luck. Johan, he's had 1 or 2 sort of opportunities to maybe run that high up, and just been mixed up with a few sort of mid-pack battles, unfortunately. It seems that he has lost 3 positions here. And will he get them back? It's likely, but he will certainly not be catching up this top 5 unless there's some caution period tactics coming into in his way as well. Because there's a big gap now between these drivers. In fact, 3 seconds, between Adam Wright and Tim Perry. And in NASCAR terms, that is a country mile.
3 seconds, that is absolutely humongous. It has to be said. And you can see here Tim Perry might be beginning to suffer ever so slightly, and you can see the differences here. Much bigger than we've seen before. The team down under car setting a blistering pace here early on with Frederik Van Ekhoven. And it's Hernandez, De Vos and Perry at the moment the only drivers able to follow that pace being set. And they, in cycling terms, you'd call this putting in the plug. With Adam Wright in 6th at the moment, surely they're not going to do that. And as a matter of fact, Team Down Under very much known for not playing the team card. I'd say to any unfair degree. They do a bit of. You can see they're on radio with one another on the restarts and such, but that's about it. And they have been racing each other hard and fair throughout the season so far here with the SRW Dynamixx Winter Series, and now Season 2 of what is just now the SRW Dynamixx NASCAR Series. And by the way, of course, a thankful word to our sponsor, Dynamixx Race Simulators. As always, a link to their website is in the description. Go check it out. And a thanks to all of you for tuning in with us tonight. It is, as always, a pleasure. We're thankful and happy. And it seems we got some good racing going on here today. Is that a cooling moment there for Sergio and Anders? I'd like to believe so. the drivers would probably have to watch engine temps here, as well as Sophie on the inside of Hendrik de Graaf for 7th place.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit of a touchdown. Unfortunately for Sergio, I don't think it was quite a cooling moment. I think he got spat out a little bit, like we've seen the drivers before. Obviously, he's now got really warm tyres, so he caught it very nicely. But maybe a chink in the armour there for Sergio. And the more he does that, the more he'll ruin his tyres. Jochen Lennart in a huge fight here, the sort of bad back of the mid-pack, you could argue. If you split the field into quarters, this would be the 3rd quarter. And Jochen Lennart's losing out on a couple of positions. That's Ari Sejas going through, Kim Verheyt ahead as well. John Barnes in the Quantum Racing car in 777 about to slip on through. And Jochen Lennart's lost an awful amount of positions there, with Bob Boland now trying to make some moves on Sven Kalpert, who was one of the drivers who gained the most amount of positions in the race, but no longer. And this is what we were expecting, what everybody comes to see from NASCAR events, isn't it? It's close, tight racing. The front is an interesting battle, but equally, you could have a watch of this and be thoroughly entertained and mistaken this for the lead of the race as well. Very close. From the belt, he didn't quite go fast or turn left enough there as he almost went into Sven Kalpert, but he got away with it.
Yeah, what I think he did was go a little too fast and turn. He wasn't able to turn left quite enough. And they almost collected one another there. Gentlemanly racing from Lucas de Bedele to pull off, give the space needed for everyone to come through safely and alive. We're still having the time timer up. That's up from last time out. Obviously, we needed time then. But so far, it's been green running for 19 laps here, and it's looking very good indeed for the team down under, boys. And you said it before, Jacko, but it's beginning to stretch out ever so slightly in the advantage of Frederik van Eekhoven, Kenzie Newhoff, and Sergio Hernandez still in there, still within the slipstream. And how much is the reigning champ holding back in that 19 car for Lucky Dogs? Same goes for Bart de Vos, still in a good position, but we'll have to see, because Tim Perry there, he's lost. He seems to have lost it, so to say. He's not lost the car whatsoever, but he's lost the pace in it. And Adam Wright is on his way back at the moment.
Yeah, Tim Perry's definitely going to get reined in towards the fight behind him rather than the fight ahead of him, which is not what he was hoping for, obviously. But you're right, Frederik van Eekhoven and Kenzie Newhoff, I mean, they were dominant, utterly dominant at Pocono. And by the looks of it, they prefer these sort of smaller tracks rather than the absolutely massive super speedways that we see at the likes of Daytona and Talladega. So maybe it just suits Frederik and Kenzie that this is the track we've gone to today, and they're pulling out that touch of a gap. Sergio, I think, slightly struggling, you know. I don't think it's it's a big catch by Johan, who's now lost an awful amount of time. See, it looked only like a small thing, didn't it? A small correction, a small wiggle of the car. In these NASCARs, you lose half a tenth of a second, and all of a sudden you lose the toe, you lose the impetus, and the guys behind you are catching right up. It is so small, the margin for error here around oval racing, and especially in these cars, they're so loose on the rear end. Got to really be careful, and that is why it's all the more impressive when we see the guys fighting through the order, just carving through people like they're not even like they're standing still, basically. This is the front of the sort of back mid-pack fight with Kim Verheyt, which you can see was a little bit gapped as Sergio Hernandez reduces the gap from Kenzie Newhoff.
Yeah, indeed, but I think Kenzie's made a little bit of a mistake there as well, because look at the gap up to Frederik van Eekhoven. It's up to 1.2 seconds. And the Lucky Dogs driver in the 19 machine is going to have to take it past on Kenzie Newhoff sooner rather than later if he's not going to be left in the dust for now. Here on lap 23, of course. It would be the first time that we've gone through a race without a caution period, should it happen today. I'm not going to jinx anything, but it would be great to see indeed here Ari Sejas in the 17. A bit of a infight with both Kurt van Honacker and Sven Kalpert. Front and back of him at the moment. And back here, Kenzie Newhoff now got real close company from Sergio Hernandez.
This is the fight we're going to be having to keep an eye out on, isn't it? Because Sergio Hernandez is going wider this time round. It looks like Kenzie is going almost defensive, doesn't it? It looks like it's a track racing move rather than an oval racing move here, but looks like tell you what, he's carrying the overspeed, isn't he? He's carrying a lot of momentum around the outside, Sergio Hernandez. He hasn't quite got his nose ahead just yet, I can confirm that. Only 3,000ths of a second in it, though. As they go around yet again, and it's proving, Sergio is proving that you can carry momentum around the outside here, but how hard is this hurting his tyres now? Will it be really chewing up? He's done an entire lap on the outside of the circuit, which is quite incredible to think, and he's still not into the second place, although I think his nose is just about there by 1,000th of a second, pretty much. Kenzie Newhoff will probably not be too amused about this, but not be too worried either, as we're only a quarter of the race. Apologies, quarter of the race in, and his teammate Frederick Van Ekhoven is just pulling away, if anything else, against these guys. 1.8 second the gap between what is now the second place man of Sergio Hernandez. He's made the move stick.
Yeah, indeed, and he had to. You could see the speed differential was really coming alive. 27 laps in. Now, according to our information, the drivers can run about half an hour's worth of fuel here, so that'll be 60 laps or so. Oh, that's a very tight squeeze there. That's the Grave, and the Builders having a bit of a sliding moment there, and he catches it. But he's now got the Quantum car. How did he keep the speed with that slide? I don't know, but they're just about getting space. Look at this. It's John Barnes in behind the two. And it's indeed Hendrik de Grave and Lucas de Builder, the 69. Go left. Go left, indeed. Go fast, turn left. I'm sorry. But you get the point. And he keeps 14th place ahead of Hendrik de Grave and John Barnes here. And Newhoff is losing contact with Sergio Hernandez instantly, so the tire management really coming into place here. As you can see, Bart de Vos is licking his lips, and he is wanting to go for a podium place here. More moves in the battle from before here as John Barnes in the 777 machine goes up the inside of Hendrik de Grave in the 87, and he is passed. And up there ahead is Johan Osorio, and he's made up some places now. The championship leader is on the tail of Philip Russell in the Ford Silla 77. And just what will he be able to make of this situation, Jacko? How do you reckon it looks for Johan here?
To work quite hard, isn't he? Because although he's in a little fight and he seems to be doing well at the top end of this fight, I mean, to be fair, he's in 10th, isn't he? At one point, he was down to about 14th position. So, although 14th position is only about 3 cars back from where he is now, if he gets past Philip Russell, it's all well and good, but there is no way that he's probably going to be able to patch up to the likes of Paul Gosling and the next fight, because he'll lose the toe all of a sudden. So unless the others sort of make a mistake and come back to him, he's in a bit of a tricky situation here. He won't be losing the championship lead if he stays where he is, but it will be getting all the more tighter as we're going into the final 4 rounds. And he has made his way up to 9th position now, but the guys behind him aren't going to settle down and just let him take that, are they? He's going to be in for a race-long fight. And unless we have a pace car period, a caution period, it's going to be difficult to catch anybody else up. Frederick Van Ekhoven is in blissful isolation at the top of the field. However, his teammate has got a Simracersworld eSport car of Bart de Vos launched onto the back of him. Latched onto the back of him, sorry.
No, but very much so, and it's interesting because last lap for Frederick Van Ekhoven, 31.3. Last lap for Sergio Hernandez, indeed as well, a 31.3. So just what it's going to end out as for the drivers, there's going to be interesting to see here. Bart de Vos is looking just to see if he can get enough of a side draft there, maybe just to get the nose up the inside there of the 62, but he's having to think twice and just doing a little bit of a lift here. And meanwhile, a three-way battle is arising from the ashes of Tim Perry's lone 5th place. The 22 car certainly having lost a bit of pace about him from the earliest point of this race. And I wouldn't be surprised, Jacko, if we were coming towards one of the few green flag pit stop rounds we've seen in this series. And with the amount of tire wear that we've got here at Atlanta, we might be seeing the drivers having to change tires as well this time around. So something quite different than what we're used to seeing, at least.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas in the chat, he asked what is the banking on the Atlanta Motor Speedway, and well, it looks really rather aggressive, and I think that's due to the fact that it looks slightly narrow. It is harsh on the tyres, we know that. A couple of the drivers have fed that back. But it's actually only 24 degrees, and when you compare that to the likes of Talladega, which is 36 degrees, and Daytona, which is 31 degrees, this looks a lot harsher, doesn't it? I mean, Talladega and Daytona, they don't affect the tyres at all, but it's all to do with the road surface they're on as well, and obviously how tight the track is, and yeah, how narrow it is, how tight the curves are, and everything like that. So there are those things to keep in mind, but actually it's only 24 degrees, which surprised me slightly. But you're right, Hasse, I think it's going to be a rare green pit stop. I hope it is anyway. I hope we don't get any caution periods anytime soon, because we're starting to see battles that we like to see all over the place just sort of manifesting themselves, and everybody bedding themselves into what is probably a deserved position, because we've had no major incidents yet. And then all of a sudden, maybe we get a pace car period after some green flag running, and it sort of kicks it all up again, and people can move up and down the order as they see fit, basically, as they try to do, as the most part. Tim Perry is trying to fend off Matteo Sufi, I believe it is, and Adam Wright has already got past these drivers. So Team Down Under driver, you can see just ahead of them, has motored his way through on Tim Perry, and in fact, so has Matteo Sufi. So not entirely sure what's going on with Tim Perry here, but he's really struggling.
Very much so. I think it's a question of tires, and you might have been a little too aggressive early on there, the Dutchman, and that's what's affecting him at the moment. Very well could be. Freddie Van Eekhoven in the 477 machine, 2.37 seconds ahead of Sergio Hernandez. So it's a nip and tuck between them at the moment. They are following one another very, very equally paced indeed. And then it's another second down to the machine of Bart de Vos. Further a second down to Kenzie Newhoff, then Adam Wright, Matty Sufi, Tim Perry, Paul Gosling, Johan Rosario up into 9th place, and then Bud Boland rounding off the top 10 as we can see here. And on to lap 39 we are, which means that we are over a third of the way through the laps that we have to complete here. And it's absolutely gone flying by so far. Here is John Barnes trying to find a way up the 77. He's looking to the inside, but he's not going to have the space. He's going to have the company, however, of Lucas de Belder with a bit of overspeed there on the outside. But no real attempt. But Lucas there, look at that launch, that he's having a great exit there. And the same can't really be said for the Ford Silla car there of Philip Russell. And they're almost going to have to go 3 wide if that keeps up. Oh, it's the Quantum car up the inside. Great action here. And lively racing that we're seeing from Atlanta.
It is. If anything, the lack of caution periods and the drivers at the front of the field gapping each other is allowing us to see these mid-pack battles that, of course, are pretty much always present in the NASCAR series, but we don't always get to appreciate in all their glory. And that is exactly the sort of racing we're missing out on here between Barnes, de Belder, and Russell. Brilliant stuff. This is Robert Lundgren. He's on the apron, and I'm not entirely sure why. I don't think that's why. I was about to say I don't think he's near the pit lane. I was absolutely wrong. He dives into the pit, so Robert Lundgren becomes the first driver to pit this entire race, which I think is pretty outstanding with 41 laps completed.
Yeah, indeed, they've all gone to make the tires last, and we'll see just about how the rest of the race is gonna unfold here. As you can see, Tim Perry now falling into the clutches of Paul Gosling. Paul Gosling, whom we did mention 5th in the overall standings, and to some are surprised that he's up there. We haven't really seen much of him. He's very much this type of character, flying under the radar, but you can see here now picking up the pace against Tim Perry. He's going to take this position shortly. There's going to be no defending it, I think, for Tim Perry, unless he can find something magical that can keep the overspeed around the outside there, but I just don't think the long way around is the way to go here in Atlanta. And Paul Gosling, though it might take a bit of time, as you can see here, he's gone a little wide there, Perry, and I think that is signed, sealed, delivered, and Paul Gosling with another position, just as he's done pretty much all season this season. He's been so good at just getting the results and keeping himself out of as much trouble as possible. Indeed, and look at here up ahead. At the moment, the cars that are lapping the quickest are actually the machines of both Sergio Hernandez and Bart de Vos, who's come back on the reigning champ, and who I think would very much love to come back on the race leader Frederick van Eekhoven as well. Let's see if they will be able to as time progresses here on to lap 45.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the lap times, really, because all of a sudden Frederick van Eekhoven actually pulled out quite a big gap. It was under a second at one point between Hernandez and van Eekhoven. Now it's nearly 3, and obviously Hernandez and Bart de Vos squeezed up substantially. Speaking of squeezing up, here is John Tusting having a little look at, I think that is Philip Russell and Ali Sayas. Indeed, Russell, oh, Tusting dives to the inside. Is that into the pits, or is it a crash? It's not quite a crash, but it was a mistake by John Tusting, as we're seeing from the suspension view of Philip Russell, who now just has to worry about Kurt Van Honecker. But John Tusting almost causing the first pace car. And we've seen a few times that, I tell you what, that is close, Hasse, from that tyre wall.
Very close indeed. Very, very close indeed there, John Tusting with a... he will have his heart up his throat after that one. And great save, I have to add as well, from John Tusting there. How many laps is indeed on the top left of the screen once they roll through the entirety of the standings? I haven't been able to figure out how to put that end of that little sign up there behind the rest of it. I don't know if Chess will figure it out with his spells and alterations, whatever he might do to things, cast some spells to make it work. I haven't been able to, but it is a total of 110 laps that we have to do today. So knowing that the info is still usable enough, dare I say, and Tim Perry still falling down the order. And you'd have to wonder, of course, these drivers wanting to get to around lap, well, I get lap 55 to 60 before they pit in case the race goes on like this to the end of it. But right now, Sergio Hernandez, look at this, I think he's actually just letting Bart de Vos through on the inside. Unless that was a mistake. Oh, and I'm afraid we've had a bit of an issue here for Philip Russell. Philip Russell, who has a bit of an issue entering the pit lane. And luckily not enough to call out the yellows. And here Sergio Hernandez is pitting in.
Odd mistake there by Philip Russell. He'll probably end up getting a penalty, to be honest, for not entering the pit lanes properly. But here we go. We can now see Hernandez. Will he go up on the tracks? Yes, he has. So it will be new tyres for Hernandez. That's not entirely surprising. And it will be probably a refuel.
Van Eekhoven locks his tyres into the pits.
Yeah, he locks up going into the pits. And it just shows how short the lap is, really, because Hernandez has only just come in. And immediately after that, Frederick van Eekhoven comes out. So will Hernandez get that undercut? It's only 30 seconds of an undercut if he can manage it at all. You can see that Hernandez has now left. So Kenzie Newhoff is in the is in the lead of this race, but it will probably go back towards the likes of either his teammate or Sergio Hernandez.
Yeah, let's see how this pit round plays out. Kenzie Newhoff stays out alongside Gosling, Bart Boland, and Kim Behade. Right now we've got Sufi and Osorio in as well. And a lot of drivers that would probably be preferring to stay out and hope for a caution period to do this pit stop. But quite a lot of drivers seem to be going for it. And maybe some of these drivers further down the running order having saved their tires better. It's hard to say now. It's Bart Boland having taken over the lead. But of course, it's not going to be for long, because everyone's going to have to pit in before long. If nothing else, than to put some fuel in the car those 30 minutes of running that we've estimated the cars to have. Oh, and the car behind, you can see there. Was that up the big? Was that the Belder? I think that was Lucas the Belder. Did you see that? That was a huge moment.
I'll be honest, I didn't actually see it. So it'll be interesting. There we go. Can we? This is Vinales that we're having a look at. As a few drivers, as Johan Asario coming out of the pit lane. And not sure where we're going to.
I think this was the right clip, actually, to be honest.
We're back live now as Robert Lundgren now chasing down. Here's Bob Boland, lead of the race. But I can tell you that Sergio Hernandez hasn't taken the lead, or provisional lead, away from Frederick Van Ekhoven. So once all the pit stops will be done, it will potentially be a Frederick back again at the top of the order. It just depends on where everybody else is pretty much filing in. As we now see Sergio Hernandez overtaking one of the Simracers esports cars. Sergio is actually a lap down, so he's basically unlapping himself at this point, I believe. Although I could be wrong, actually. I think that's Stuart Musselwhite. In fact, yes, so Stuart Musselwhite was the car that was a lap down, and Sergio Hernandez was just making short work of the back marker.
Yeah, indeed. We have had several drivers seemingly having a bit of trouble with the pit lane entrance. It's nothing that's caused any real stir in terms of bringing out a caution period here. Bart Boland staying out for a long time indeed. 3 seconds ahead of John Barnes. 8 seconds ahead of Kurt van Honacker. 10 seconds ahead of John Tusting indeed. Bart Boland coming into the pits now. John Barnes as well. Van Honacker. They're all coming in. They're all having to come in here. Except for John Tusting, who's finding it somehow the fumes within his fuel tank to do another lap, and the grains of rubber to bite onto the track for another 30 seconds or so. And a lot of activity around pit lane at the moment. And still a few other drivers that have yet to pit. Vinales has yet to pit. Van Eyfden has not been in either. And then it's Van Ekhoven, Hernandez coming back up to the lead of affairs here. Taking their rightful place, if you will. And let's see what the gap is here once they come round.
Curious decision there by a few drivers not deciding to pit in. The new drivers who've got new tyres, they're around 2 seconds a lap quicker than what they were doing on the old tyres. So why you wouldn't come in a little bit quicker is beyond me. Kenzie Newolf, in fact, just now has set a purple lap time at 29.5 seconds. 5.7 seconds is the quickest lap time we've had for the entire evening on those new boots that he's just strapped on. Here is Sergio Hernandez with obviously Frederick Van Ekhoven to try and catch. 1.93 seconds the gap between those guys. And then Sergio Hernandez back to the next driver who's taken a pit stop will be Bart de Vos. And I believe that's a pretty big gap, to be honest. I think that's going to be about 8 seconds.
Yeah, I think you are pretty much correct on that. And normally when we look at the timing table, see people tunneling down the orders because we've had some sort of incident. We're just not really used to seeing these green flag pit stops. Here's Vinales for Ramon's Oval Spain in the pits at the moment. And so I think with the final couple of cars that are in for these pit stops at the moment, here at lap 60 of 110 that we've got to do here at Atlanta, we have order restored. I say that, but there's Hendrik de Graaf who still has to pit in, and who's doing so right about now.
The last driver to have to pit in, actually, and there's only one driver who's had to pit in more than once so far, and that is Ian Roots, who's currently stuck down in 31st position. Yeah, he's pitted in twice, and I'm sure he's not very pleased about it. A couple of laps down now as well, as Hendrik de Graaf now gets on the on his new set of tyres. Harry Say has the 14th place, and you say about 110 laps, Hasse. From my information, it's only 100 laps. So I think it's going to be a bit of a toss-up between the two. We'll keep an eye out on that one. But if there is only 100 laps, well, we are well over halfway. And in fact, we're almost 2/3 of our way through this race. So it's gone by like a flash, hasn't it? We're on lap 63 and not actually had a caution period at all. Which, touch wood, commentators curse, all those bad luck things aside, is brilliant to see. And it may well become out as a highlight of the season purely because of the clean racing that we've had. And it's the reaction we wanted to see after what was Charlotte's sort of 11 pace car periods. Wasn't ideal, was it?
No, and there was a lot of strokes of bad luck that we've seen drivers do very, very well to avoid here tonight, indeed. And indeed, it does say 100 laps. I thought I saw it before, but the rule set, the rule book, if you will, states 110, which is what I went after when I informed you. My apologies for not being correct. It is not the first time, and I assure you, it shall not be the last ever. So, no grand feelings. There is Kim Behate defending from another Belgian, the 69 car of Lucas de Belder. For go fast, turn left, and having to wonder if that team has anything to do with fast cars go bang. But probably not. Maybe just my imagination. Anyway, we're having a relatively spread out field apart from a few drivers making moves here. That's Fernando Lopez Vinales, I'm sorry, who's on the tail of Tim Perry at the moment. But Tim Perry is in 8th position, so Vinales a lap down here. And up ahead, Frederick van Eekhoven is still hammering along. 3 seconds is now the gap to Sergio Hernandez. Another 6.2 seconds down to Bart de Vos, or to Kenzie Newhoff, I'm sorry, and then another second and a half down to Bart de Vos, indeed, with Matthew Sufi. Another 1.7 seconds off here. And this is really something we have never really seen in a season and a half of SRW Dynamixx NASCAR racing. We've yet to see a race pan out like this one, really. So it does happen. I want to say it does indeed happen.
Yeah, it happens once in a blue moon, but it has happened here and now. And it must be Bart de Vos, really, was the biggest loser in all that sort of session of pit stops per se, because he was within tenths of a second from Sergio Hernandez, and now he's 7 or 8 seconds down on him, and obviously lost an entire position out to Kenzie Newhoff. So I'm not entirely sure how that may have happened, because realistically they all take a massive amount of fuel and tyres. What has Robert Lundgren done? The driver who took fuel and tyres first out of everyone ended up kissing the wall. And is it going to be the shock of Lucas de Belder flying up the inside, or is it just getting too loose on the exit? It's happened so many times before. It looks like this has been quite far back, but we will try and get our best angle on it as he dives through. It could only be described as the second corner of this quad oval, but we didn't quite see what happened to him there. But he has kissed the wall. Luckily, no caution period. And now you can see him. There you go. It hits the wall again because he kept his foot in it. So not entirely sure what's happened here. Oh, here we go. Is there going to be a tap? There is a tap with number 5. Not sure who that was. And then it just gets a bit loose. He did look like he caught it. And then it spat him back out at the end as well. So I think that was Tees van den Berg. Apologies if it wasn't to Tees. But it looked like that was sort of the area of the track that may have been happening.
Yeah, indeed. And it's 70 laps into this 100-lap race, and the first real incident, and then it doesn't even bring out the yellows, which I think a lot of the drivers, especially at the front of the field, they will be exhilarated that they can go on racing. I'll bet you at this moment, Frederick van Eekhoven up ahead, he's going to be hoping for this race to stay green all the way to the line. Now look at this, the gap's coming down now, it's under 2 seconds. And at the last lap, 0.6 of a second's gain there for Sergio Hernandez. And Newhoff gaining on Hernandez as well, though not on the last lap indeed as well. And it seems to have played out. Could have had a bit with the traffic to do here as John Barnes is getting past Ariseas on the low side indeed. Seems to be the most successful side for any kind of maneuvers here tonight. And then just around the edges of the top 10 here is Kimber.
Yeah, driver I'd like to give a bit of a shout out to as well is because as you say, Kimber has gained 8 positions, and like I said, I do like to give a bit of a shout out to those drivers who have gained the most. Well, Kimber has gained 8, but it's actually the driver you're currently looking at is Stuart Musselwhite. He's gained 14 positions and he's up to 14th place. So really well done to Stuart so far in the Sim Racers esports car. Always nice to keep an eye out for those things, you know, and in the British Touring cars, which I'm a big fan of, I always like to see the Forever Forward Championship. It's always just quite entertaining. Gives something for drivers who are maybe in that mid-pack or starting lower down, an opportunity to sort of have some bragging rights, the most position gains and all that sort of thing. Bob Boland is currently following the championship leader in Johan Osario, though, who I wouldn't say bad-mouthed, but I said that he didn't really have much to race for early on in this race, and he's absolutely proven me dead wrong, as he looks like his back end's getting a little bit looser, but he caught it very nicely. I think, though, Bob's got a bit of a run on him, but the driver just ahead of Johan isn't actually for race position. I think that's Bram van Uytven. No, sorry, not Bram van Uytven. I'm not sure who the driver is ahead of him, but Tim Perry is the driver that's just ahead of that driver, who is Jurgen van der Peer. I thought it was the radioactive car, but it's indeed isn't. It's the mystery machine. No wonder I couldn't tell what it was.
Oh, and here goes Boland. That's quickly caught up to Osario and now up the inside. Decisive action. He's going to take 9th place away from the championship leader. And so far, it has not been the race of attrition. Oh, and Osario's into the wall. And it's the smallest of taps there. And let's have another look here. That's a long fight indeed. Boland goes up the inside of Osario. Osario stays put, stays wide, and still in there. Stays on the outside for the back straight. And then here, there's the slight squeeze. And you can see him just touch the barrier, catch the car though, expertly done from the Spaniard in the 11 car, but that is an unfortunate touch of the wall indeed. It might put him into the clutches of Kimber here.
He's very close and quite lucky, I'd say, there, Johan. There was an opportunity for his race and potential championship to be absolutely ruined, although, of course, we have to keep in mind that the drop rounds are still yet to be put into place. So, it's great car control, and he's still in the top 10, only lost 1 position. And if his pace is anything to go by, well, I'm sure he can use the slipstream of Bram van Uytven to maybe catch back up to the likes of Tim Perry and Bob Boland. Here's Kenzie Newhoff and Bart de Vos. So just a sort of a show here on how big the gap is between the front runners, the front 5, front 6, in fact, of Adam right here. And it's another 2 seconds back to Paul Gosling. It's another 2 seconds back to Tim Perry. And this is Kimber now hunting on Johan Osario, looking for those championship points. And that little touch of the wall is going to be really annoying for Johan, I believe, because it's not what he needed at all.
No, indeed here. Let's see if Kimber can find a way past on the championship leader. So far, it's nothing more than looking as we're coming towards the final 20 laps. Here goes Kimber with a very decisive move, a swift charge up the inside of Osario. Came with the overspeed, came quickly indeed, very late, but the move done. Although Osario might have the chance for a comeback, a cutback sort of move, though we rarely see those types of moves pulled off in oval racing. But we also rarely see 80 laps of green flag running consecutively, and we've seen it tonight. Tim Perry ahead of Bud Boland. Bud Boland's been making up some good places as well in the latter stages of the race. He's gained 6 places overall, but climbing well up into the top 10 now in the 26 machine for Simracersworld Esports. It's still Van Eekhoven leading by around 2.5 seconds. Sergio Hernandez, Kenzie Newhoff, Bart de Vos, and Matthew Sufi is still the top 5. And as you can see here, Osorio now having to defend this time around from Lucas de Belder.
Yeah, and de Belder is looking quite pacey himself. And he's going up the inside. So all of a sudden, as I praise Johan Osorio, he's starting to go backwards ever so slightly. So the overspeed really getting used against him here by the 69 car of de Belder. And all of a sudden, Osorio's lost 1 position from where he started. And he's now down in 12th position. And all these positions he's losing now are just points that he's losing to the likes of Frederik Van Eekhoven as well. Because obviously the main championship rivals are all still running right at the sharp end of this race. Bob Bolland and Tim Perry. Tim Perry's just been bleeding positions after what was a really good qualifying pace from him. Ever since the race started, basically, he's been going backwards. And not entirely sure why, but Bob Bolland in the same race as Esports car is the next driver to take that position away from him. And it is worth noting as well, we don't often give them a bit of a shout out, but because this isn't a team championship. However, the team down under cars doing very well as they normally do. They are 1st, 3rd, and 6th at the moment, so running really strong. But as Simracers Esports, with the addition of Bart de Vos, are currently running in 4th, 5th, and 8th. So again, that's a big improvement, it has to be said, I'd say, from the Simracers Esports car. Doing really well. And obviously Sergio Hernandez is all on his own in 2nd place with the Lucky Dogs team. He is the only runner in it. I think he did have 1 or 2 teammates join him for a couple of rounds, but they haven't stuck around. And then you got Paul Gosling and the Quantum Racing team in the 7th place as well. So the likes of Team Down Under and Simracers Esports are really doing well.
Yeah, indeed, and it's also great to see how the teams are, at least that's the way it looks to me, they're able to use the practice time they can put in with one another and putting it to good use. And putting his machine to good use here tonight is Frederik Van Eekhoven, who's led from green flag at least to now 14 laps from the end of this one. So far, hugely impressive. Sergio Hernandez has done everything in his power to come back on Frederik Van Eekhoven. It has yet to really materialize for Sergio, but I think he's going to be completely okay with a 2nd place in a race like this as well. And indeed, a special race it has been. To be a very short one indeed. I think actually if we complete this race without any caution periods, I think it's going to be the shortest race we've had so far in terms of how many minutes were actually spent on completing the race here. Johan Osorio is now down in 13th place following the loss of another position here to John Barnes, Jacko.
Yeah, again, a lot like Tim Perry was in the early stages of this race. He's just bleeding positions, and it's really not ideal for him at the moment. As I said, he's all of a sudden he needs to sort of sort out whatever's been his bugbear. Maybe he's got a setup that doesn't aid him at this stage of the race, but then he's stuck on new tyres, unless he hasn't stuck on new tyres, which I can't believe, because that would be an extremely foolish thing to do. And Johan is not leading the championship by accident. He is smarter than that, and by the looks of it, he's spent the same amount of time in the pit stops as pretty much everybody else around him has, so I can't believe that he didn't change tyres. But he just seems to be losing it left, right and centre, doesn't he? Frederik going through on one of the back markers, and I've seen a little bit in the chat as well from the Mew and Thomas, who obviously always tune in to the series, and brilliant to have you guys along yet again. And he's saying that I'm disappointed that I haven't used my Oliphant yet. Trust me, I would much rather see green flag running than to have to delve into a history lesson of the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Not least of which is because it's not that interesting. It isn't really that brilliant circuit. It's not like the big stories of last week at Charlotte or anything. it sort of got built, and then it went bankrupt a bit, it changed owners, and then it sort of got bigger, and that's pretty much it. Kim Bahate is now going through on Tim Perry.
Yeah, indeed. Kim Bahate up to 9th place with a well-timed move up the inside there of the boosted motorsports car. Doesn't seem to really have the tires to get the run to contest it. They're still side by side here though, which shows also that you can try and pull a move there, but the car outside could be able to still stick on the outside. Not that I think it's going to be too much the matter here. The gaps come down ever so slightly yet again here between Frederik van Eekhoven and Sergio Hernandez. Those drivers, both of them in your picture, or they were at least a short moment ago. There they are again. But it's still 2.14 seconds, and for that to close in the space of 9 laps, things would have to turn very crazy indeed, very, very quickly, which frankly by now I don't think we're hoping for. And indeed, Mew, it does look like it's going to be an early night here as Tim Perry follows Kim Bahate, who has a little bit of a loose moment as well there. Mind you, at the end of the first stint, Jacko, the cars looked very, very loose indeed, very difficult to drive. And it's those sort of conditions that we're heading back into now here for the last couple of laps.
People pushing their cars right to the limits, aren't they? And hoping that they don't end up in the wall for their hard efforts as well. You're right, there would have to be a caution period for any sort of chopping and changing of any major positions, I think, which obviously we're not hoping for. I want to go for the record. I want to go for the entire NASCAR race with no caution periods. And that would be something to behold, and something that we would remember Atlanta for as well, which would be great. But as we start the second half of the season, it really bodes well, doesn't it, for the rest of the season. I think we're going back to a few of the other tracks as well, as we see Vinales maybe losing out. Yeah, I think that's John. In fact, it's not John Tustin going through. It is Vinales going through on Musselwhite. So although I said Musselwhite has gained the most amount of positions, he gained 14 at the time that I said that. He still gained the most amount. It's only 12 though. And in fact, Vinales, the driver you're seeing on screen now, and Kim Bahate on the screen now, have both gained 10. So catching up to the Forever Forward award of Stuart Musselwhite is currently holding.
Yeah, very much so. Back up to race leader here, Frederik van Eekhoven. Gap is back up to 2.5 seconds, down to Sergio Hernandez as we're into the final 5 laps here at Charlotte. The 477 has led from the off every single lap except for those being sort of undercut or at least outlasted in the pit stop strategy by some of the other cars. And just hoping for everyone to basically last it all the way to the line. They're on fuel as well now. But I think everyone should have strategy running nice and tight here. Last 4 laps now for Van Eekhoven is looking very good indeed. And down here, John Barnes is now coming up. Oh, he's getting challenged. Oh, that's one of the Flemish cars. And then it's the challenge coming against the Belder from John Barnes. Indeed, here in the 777 from Quantum Racing. And with 4 more laps to go, Jacko, do you reckon he's going to be able to make a move here?
It's going to be difficult, isn't it? I think he may well try it. To be fair, he's got a good amount of pace and a lot of overspeed. It does take an entire lap, though, to get a move done here. But it looks like that De Boulder is actually just driving away from them somewhat, as John Barnes is currently being hunted down, shall we say, by a car that I think is actually going to unlap themselves in Hendrik de Graaf. This is Janissaria now. Thomas Smets, I think it was in the chat, and noticed that obviously he had the tap on the wall earlier on that really ruined his speed on that one particular lap. Is there damage? It looks really innocent, but that, just like they say in the chat, it could have spelled something a lot worse, or not a lot worse, but just like a couple of tenths here and there, which is the reason why these bleeding positions. But we are with the penultimate lap to go, I believe. So we have to start looking at those drivers who have really impressed us today, and one driver who hasn't put a foot wrong at all for 98 laps, 99 laps now, is Frederik van Eekhoven. The final 30 seconds of this race is pretty much down to him.
Yeah, indeed, here Tim Perry, Lucas de Belder, they're going to go take it all the way to the line as well. In a fight for the last of the top 10 positions, de Belder really wants one of these. And at the same time, Van Ekhoven is gonna come home to take the checkered flag. Lights to flag here in Atlanta, more or less. A fantastic race from Fredrik Van Ekhoven. The 477 car wins it ahead of Sergio Hernandez. And then Team Down Under teammate Kenzie Newhoff rounds off the podium. Bart DeVos, what a debut for Simracersworld. He takes fourth ahead of his teammate Matt Yusufi, and then the third teammate for Team Down Under places sixth. So that's a 50% hit rate within the top 6 cars there for Team Down Under. Impressive. So indeed, here's Paul Gosling.
Paul Gosling really doing well yet again. He's not quite in the top 5 or 6 that we're shouting about, but he's scoring some really good points. As Bod Boland comes in 8th and Kimber Haight now in the top 10. Tim Perry just about holds on to the top 10, and this is Fredrik Van Ekhoven doing a little bit of donuts, a little bit of showboating with Kenzie Newhoff. All the drivers hopefully going to... It's a little bit of... I remember back when I used to play Forza 3 with my mates, and this is basically all we used to do on the oval circuit. It was always quite good fun. But it's we're just waiting for everyone to cross the line before we give you the full rundown of results. But a great race in terms of driving standards, a really, really good race. Obviously, it was a little bit tactical. Maybe the spacing out of all the drivers was meant that we had a few down periods, but I think we'll take that over the Charlotte display we had last time out any day.
Very much so indeed. Let's see, do we have the results ready on screen? Yes, we do. Fredrik Van Ekhoven wins it. Indeed, ahead of Sergio Fernandez and Kenzie Newhoff with Bart DeVos and Matty Sufi in 5th. And a right, Paul Gosling, Bud Boland, Kimber Haight, and Tim Perry rounds off the top 10. And then it's Lucas de Belder, John Barnes, and Johan Osorio, 13th place for the championship leader, ahead of his teammate Ari Sejes. It's John Tusting, Fernando Lopez Vinales, and Stuart Musselwhite in 17th, ahead of Jürgen van der Perre. It's Hendrik de Grave. It's Bram van Hoeften in 20th place, ahead of Manolo Larocque, Thijs van den Berg, and Kurt van Honager. And it's leaving up the beak, Philip Russell and Sven Calvert, with Yves Fredericks and Jochen Lennartz in 28th place there at the end of the race. Robert Lundgren in 29th. Toby Wards, Ian Roots, and Ryan D. Walker finishing, but 50 laps down. So he's, I think, at least our only retiree of this race today.
Interesting, to say the least, isn't it? I mean, I can't get over that. But one driver who was absolutely nowhere near any kind of retirement is the driver who won the race. And we have him in the comms booth to have a chat with Hasse. And it's going to be Fredrik Van Ekhoven. We'll bring him into the broadcast booth. Fredrik, Hasse, take it away.
Yeah, indeed, Fredrik, what an amazing victory. More or less lights to flag, and talking about making it look easy today. You really did here, mate, was it?
No, not at all, because it's NASCAR. It's never over till it's really over. But I must say, I want to just thank all the drivers out there. We had a complete green run, which is always amazing. This is what NASCAR is about, a combination of speed, pace, tire wear, pit stop, just everything.
Yeah, because I think this is the first time we've ever had that as well, a completely green run, and as such a race that turned out to be very, very different from what we usually see, and something that that really panned out to your advantage today. Where do you think you found that extra pace out on track?
Actually, yesterday I did a practice race and it wasn't so great. I didn't feel like I had the pace to even be in the top 5. So today at work I had some spare time and I watched the pro race from last season, and there I picked up some lines, some lines I should say.
Yeah, indeed, a bit of a Freudian slip there, indeed, maybe. But well, interesting, and interestingly so that you can actually translate that so directly into pace in the sim. A very, very impressive performance, and Fredrik, it's gonna do you a world of good as well in the fight for the championship.
Yeah. I really needed that win because I'm pretty consistent, but the difference in points between a first and a second is 5 points. So if you're not winning, the consistency doesn't really matter that much. So I really needed that win. And yeah, I hope I can do this again soon.
Well, indeed, we hope to see you again atop the podium. And of course, we hope to see you here in the booth for an interview again soon. Frederick, thanks for joining us. And before we let you go to sip the champagne, so sip the champagne is what I meant to say, and or the milk or whatever you have in oval racing. Is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout out to?
Team Down Under, because during the race, Sergio went into the pits, and despite I was checking my relative occasionally, I actually missed it, and they called it out, so I could anticipate on that, and I could come to the pits. So thanks to them, I was also able to take this victory home.
Well, indeed, and congratulations on a great win again, Frederick. Superb drive. Amazing to see, and such well-deserved points in the bank for you tonight.
Thank you.
So that was Frederick van Eekhoven, race winner for tonight. And I'm going to hand you over to Jacko, to a man who's got plenty of experience here in the booth. Second place finisher for tonight, it's Sergio Hernandez.
Hello.
Yes, Sergio, it's almost unusual us congratulating you for second place. We're so used to seeing you on the top step of the podium. But tonight, you were probably just pleased to get that consistent run, weren't you, and score those championship points?
Hello. Well, what a race. It's happy to see that we can have a win race with the help of all the drivers. Today, my intention was to obtain as most of points as I could. And Atlanta is a track where I used to have a good results. I mean, I don't know, I'm not comfortable with this track. And Frederick today has an impressive pace, so he have a well-deserved win. And congrats to him.
Yeah, well, it was certainly a difficult track, wasn't it? You say that it's not a track that you're often used to. What makes Atlanta difficult? Is it the abrasion of the surface? Is it the tire wear? What makes it different to the other circuits?
Definitely the tire wear. It's a very important concept to have in the circuit, the tire management. The tire wear is so high, and you have to be very. You have to maintain a stable line always, and you have to be very patient with the throttle because using an excessive throttle, you will have to a bad tire wear. So
yeah.
So that is just knowing how to manage this throttle and this tire wear.
Yeah, tire wear, it does really hurt you, I'm sure. As we're speaking about tracks, what are your hopes going towards Michigan next week? Is it a track you've driven a lot? I'll be honest, me and Hasse don't know a lot about it. So tell us, is it hard to drive? Is it a super speedway? What's the sort of the lowdown with Michigan?
Michigan is a track where it's very important to race with people you will want to race with. Racing the last season with Team and Downer, that was very difficult because they were always racing in the same line, and well, will be difficult because it's a team track. But well, we'll be here for trying to do something.
Well, you normally do something, that is for sure, Sergio. Thank you very much for coming to have a chat with us. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
As always, to my team, Lucky Dog team, for being here and watching my races. And this race, I would like to to dedicate that to my friend Julen, who is is joking about my English, but well, this is for him.
Well, for what it was worth, Sergio, your English is brilliant, and it's very brave to come in here and do an interview in a second language. So I couldn't do it. So well done to you on not only second place, but that accomplishment as well. We'll let you go, Sergio, to enjoy the podium champagne.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
So that concludes our post-race interviews for tonight. I'm afraid we don't have any more joining in, it seems. So with that, that's going to be the conclusion of tonight's broadcast. A swift round. It was all green at Atlanta. It's been great to see indeed. And a thanks goes to our sponsor, Dynamixx Race Simulators. As I said earlier, links description. Check it out. And with that said, of course, Jacko and we shall be back on a week's time from now, if you will. It's gonna be Michigan indeed, as Jacko posed a good question there, because we frankly don't know the tracks. We know a little bit more about what to expect for next week now, and so do you. And we do indeed hope that you will be wanting to join us for yet another Monday's night's worth of oval racing come next week. So tune in. And until then, check our page. All the upcoming live streams are there to check out, so you can pick and choose which categories of series of racing, which classes you would prefer to watch here on Simracersworld, whether it be TCRs or Formula 3s or LMP2s or GT racing, rather serious GT3 or one-make GT3. You know, we have it all here on SRW TV. Like and subscribe if you think we deserve such. And with that said, from Hasse Rømer and Jack Oliphant in the booth, well, thanks for joining in, and until next time, take care, have fun, and bye-bye.